welcome to Norfolk and Snetterton. The 300 circuit lies ahead for the cars in the final weekend of racing in the GT Cup Championship for 2024. We've got our first of two sprint races of the weekend coming up. One of them taking place today. The other one will take place as our final race tomorrow. Round 23 of the championship. We've got a few cars that are missing from this weekend that have got mechanical woes. Unfortunately, Richard Chamberlain has had engine issues, so he is not present with us this weekend. Also, Richard Neary and Ian Loggie have done great things at the wheel of the Team ABBA Racing Mercedes, are unfortunately not here. And another couple of cars, the likes of Forsetti Motorsport, have not appeared this weekend. So we are hoping still for some fantastic racing. It certainly looked tight in qualifying, and the championship's still up for grabs. We think we know which way the overall championship, the teams championship, the sporting championship, the sprint championship will all be going, but we really have to see what will unfold over this next a couple of days here at Snetterton, with both this sprint race and of course the pit stop race that comes later on today, and then tomorrow we have the pit stop race first thing and the sprint race as our final race. So it's still all up for grabs. As ever, the cars split into separate groups. So Group GT3 is for the GT3 cars. We've only got one of those with us this weekend. That's a number 33 GCAT Racing Porsche that starts on the outside of the front row of the grid. Group GTO is for the open specification cars, for which the Kendall Developments Paul Bailey driven Lamborghini. It is a GT3 spec car, but it runs without the air restrictors, so it runs without a balance of performance as such. So that black and Dayglow car in the hands of the outgoing champion is the car that runs in Group GTO. Several cars in Group GTC, which is for the Cup specification cars. They're largely the Lamborghini Super Trofeos for today. We were hoping we would have out the Ferrari 458 Challenge spec car that Bon Grimes was scheduled to share with Johnny Molan, the FF Corsa preferred car that runs under the Red River Sport banner, but that had diff issues yesterday. They will get that car back out for tomorrow, so that's good to see that that car will join us tomorrow. So that's for the challenge specification cars. Then we have Group GTH, which is for those cars that run to GT4 specification, the likes of the Ginettas and the McLaren Artura, which is the black car with its Dayglow pink flashes you can see from Paddock Motorsport, which will line up on the third row of the grid, with Michael Arant having had a brilliant qualifying session in that car. And then we also get the likes of Jolt Racing with their slightly older McLaren 570S, the older model car, which now for this season has sat in Group GTA all year. So the teams are there on the grid. In terms of the championship coming into this weekend, the car that qualified on pole position, Tom Rawlings, who shares the Top Cats Racing with Hex.com Lamborghini Super Trofeo spec car, he has had a brilliant weekend and a brilliant season racing with Charlotte Gilbert. They are leading the championship overall at the wheel of that number 2 Lamborghini on 498 points coming into this weekend. Sam Nesser and Mikey Porter, who are absentees for Forsetti Motorsport this weekend, are second in the championship on 457, and third in the championship is also not here this weekend, which would be Richard Neary and Ian Loggie. So you have to look back to the next car that's here this weekend that's scoring points in the championship, and that's in fourth place overall in the championship on 388 points, and that's the sister car from Top Cats Racing, which is the Warren Gilbert and Fraser Fennick car. That car lines up on the second row of the grid, the second of the two beautifully liveried Lamborghinis. They sort of fade from yellow to purple to pink as they go from the front towards the back of the car. The way to tell the two Lamborghinis apart, the livery is identical. If it's got pink wing mirrors, then that will be Tom Rawlings. If it's got yellow wing mirrors, then that will be Warren Gilbert. So off the cars go onto their final formation lap. Nice to see the KTM Crossbow joining us for this weekend. Tom Walpole joining the grid for this weekend, and also Innovation Racing with Hallam Express. Hadley Simpson drives one of two Ginettas that we've got. So let's guide you through the grid then, the way that they line up for this first sprint race. Remember, the pros can't be involved, and if you're a pro sporting driver, you can only start today's sprint race. You can't start tomorrow's. So it's Top Cats Racing with Hex.com. It is Tom Rawlings that starts from pole position, and it's the GCAT Racing Seamus Jennings driven Porsche that lines up alongside. Row 2 of the grid, Kendall Developments and the Lamborghini of Paul Bailey, alongside the second of the two Top Cats Racing Lamborghinis, which is Warren Gilbert. His wife starts from pole. Warren's on row 2. The next row of the grid is row number 3. It's the KTM Crossbow from PMT Motorsport. Tom Walpole, who I gather is only racing today. I'm hoping we might see him out for tomorrow, but he's only scheduled to be competing today, alongside the Paddock Motorsport Michael Arant-driven McLaren Artura. And row 4 of the grid, it is Team Parker Racing and the number 75 Porsche of Doc Bush that lines up alongside Innovation Racing with Hallam Express, the number 37 car, which joins the championship for this weekend. And for the sprint race, that's in the hands of Hadley Simpson. Then we move on to the next row of the grid. SVG Motorsport. Mark Ellman is sharing that car this weekend. He is also doing this sprint race. He lines up alongside the Woodrow Motorsport car of former champion Chris Murphy at the wheel of his BMW. And then the final row of the grid, car number 370, which will be a John Ingram, I'm led to believe, for this race. It says Rupert Williams there, but I think it's John Ingram who is driving it in this race. And it should have been the second of the 2 cars that Chris Murphy was scheduled to be racing and sharing with Kev Clark, 721. But that car had problems in a session earlier on this morning, and I think the engine has gone on that car, and it may well be out for the weekend, unfortunately. So that's the way that they line up. The 2025 calendar was recently announced by GT Cup and visits all of the usual circuits again. So Snetterton is twice on the calendar, Donington Park, Brands Hatch, Silverstone, of course, the Grand Prix circuit. So lots to look forward to, and hopefully some more exciting news with regards to buoyant entries for next year. It's already looking very, very positive for next year as grids will swell, and also potentially, I don't think it's been announced just as yet, but the format might be tweaked slightly, which I think, if it happens, is going to be hugely, hugely exciting, and without question is going to attract, I think, a good chunk more cars in for the subtly tweaked format that we might have at maybe 1, possibly 2 of the rounds. So all of that will be released in due course. Fine weather conditions, a bit of a breeze. It's slightly chilly out there, but for this time of year, nice clear skies, nice dry track, and lots to look forward to in this 25-minute sprint race that we've got coming up for you, which will be round 23 of the 2024 GT Cup Championship. Cars just about to finish their formation lap. The Pirelli tyres have been worked hard, as have the brakes, to try and build some tyre temperature. But it's going to be Tom Rawlings and Seamus Jennings, the Lamborghini and the Porsche respectively, that line up on the front row of the grid. Lights go out. We're away racing for the 23rd time this year in GT Cup. Tom Rawlings has the inside line as they head up towards Ritchie's for the first time. Seamus Jennings tucks himself into 2nd place. Paul Bailey's there in 3rd, with Warren Gilbert there in 4th position, hoping to see if he can maybe overhaul what is a 3-point deficit between himself and Seamus Jennings in terms of the sprint championship for this weekend. Warren runs a little bit wide though, going round through the Wilson hairpin for the first time, and that offers up a possibility for Tom Walpole at the wheel of the KTM Crossbow to try and squeeze his way through. So Tom Rawlings, Seamus Jennings, then it's Paul Bailey, and it is Tom Walpole who has managed to squeeze that KTM Crossbow up into 4th place in the early stages of this one. So Warren Gilbert drops down into 5th place, and Michael Arant is there in 6th place. So he'll be leading Group GTH in the early stages of this one at the wheel of the black and the pink McLaren Artura, run by Paddock Motorsport in its new livery for this weekend. I think they had the car liveried for Donington, but they had to utilise the other McLaren Artura in the old livery. So it's the first time this year we've seen it out in its fantastic black and pink livery. So top 2 pulling away. There's Warren Gilbert sitting there in 5th position, a man who is hoping that he can scoop up the Sprint Challenge crown for this weekend, because he's on full championship points for this weekend. Such are the number of entries in Group GTC, whereas Seamus Jennings, in the car that's currently running 2nd on the road, the Porsche, is the only entrant in Group GT3 this weekend. So he's on lesser amounts of championship points rather than 25 as the maximum. He would only get 15 because he is the only entrant in that category. So that gives Warren a good opportunity to overhaul that 3-point deficit in terms of the Sprint Challenge, which is for points accumulated by drivers in the sprint races. So onto the brakes, through the left-hander at Murray's. Lamborghini sitting there in the lead of the race. Lamborghini sitting there in what will be 4th place in the race. So it's Lamborghini from Porsche, from KTM, from Lamborghini from KTM. So over the start-finish line, there's Tom Walpole in the PMT racing car. Front big clamshell on that car. You've never seen how the driver gets into a KTM. It's the whole of the front windscreen on the roof that lifts up and you deposit the driver in that way. Great big front clamshell rather than having separate doors on the car. They really are super little cars, KTMs. Now up the inside at Palmer, and is he going to go through? Warren Gilbert sticks his nose up the inside, but then backs out of it. He's got that championship to think about, so he doesn't as yet want to really ask a few questions of Tom Walpole. There's plenty of time to do that in the 25-minute race. He's going to have another little nibble as they head in towards the brakes at Agostini, but again, he's not quite close enough. So Tom Walpole still sitting there in what will be 4th position overall. He will be leading Group GTC as well, because his car is one of the Challenge or Cup specification cars. The Reiter Engineering car, as was. Turning his way through Oggies, starting to then try and build a bit of momentum as they head along the Bentley Straight for the first time. Now, has the Lamborghini got the legs on the KTM in a straight line? We'll have to wait and see. What has got the legs is Tom Rawlings, who in the lead of the race is pulling away quite substantively from the Porsche of Seamus Jennings. Paul Bailey on his own in 3rd. Then this squabble that we're talking about, Tom Walpole and Warren Gilbert. So those two fighting over what will actually be 2nd and 3rd, I should say, in Group GTC. Group GTH being led by Michael Orant, and Chris Murphy at the wheel of his BMW doing good things as well. Might be one of the older cars in the field, but this fantastically well-developed piece of machinery, the E46 GTR, always goes well in the hands of Chris, who I think now will be sharing that car with Kev Clark potentially over the course of this weekend. So through has gone Tom Rawlings. He leads Group GTC. Leading Group GT3 is Seamus Jennings in 2nd place. Paul Bailey leads Group GTO as he's there in 3rd place. And then 4th and 5th, Tom Walpole and Warren Gilbert still rolling their sleeves up and trying to work out who's going to be 2nd and 3rd in Group GTC at the moment. So onto the brakes through Wilson. Not that far behind, are they? The Group GTO Lamborghini of Paul Bailey. Now, Warren Gilbert had a nibble last time going in towards Palmer. He had another little nibble this time, but again just pulled out of the move, wasn't quite close enough, knew the door was going to close. Championship to think about, all of those things that go through your mind as a driver. He'll want to press on. He's going to weave the car around again and see if he can do anything to distract Tom Walpole. Now, there was a slight mistake there from Tom, wasn't it? Briefly locking the brake going in towards Agostini. It didn't really cost him a great deal of time. So 20 minutes remaining on the clock as they flick their way through the left-hander at Hamilton, down the very short straight and in towards the braking area for Oggies. Easy to run wide coming out of Oggies, but make sure you get a nice line out of Oggies and carry that momentum through Williams and utilise all of that good exit speed coming out of Williams, and that will give you an extra couple of kph down the bottom section of the Bentley Straight, which is where they're heading to now. In a straight line, the Group GTO Lamborghini pulls away from the KTM Crossbow. Again, Warren Gilbert just weaving around in the background, trying to distract Tom Walpole, who makes his debut in GT Cup this weekend. KTM Crossbow going beautifully well. Well-engineered car from PMT Motorsport. And at the moment, he is just hanging on to 2nd place in Group GTC and 4th place overall in the race. So round through the never-ending right-hander at Coreham. Very difficult braking areas. You're still rotating the car through Coreham when you need to get on the brakes, ready for the next corner, which is the left-hander at Murray's. And then as they flash their way over the start-finish line, that's another 2.9689 miles of the Snetterton 300 circuit done and dusted. Warren Gilbert gets a good run down the straight this time, picks up the toe from the KTM, but still can't unlock the door on Tom Walpole to wiggle his way through. Sister car still continuing to lead. Warren Gilbert still moving around, trying to see whether he can prise the door open. Slightly wider line in towards Wilson to try and get on the power a little bit earlier coming out of it. Triangulate almost the corner, get on the power, and again he has another quick look at the inside at Palmer. But as long as Tom Walpole grabs the apexes and gets cleanly off the corner, it is going to be difficult for Warren to try and squeeze his way through. Is he going to have another go? Again, he's moving around in towards the braking area for Agostini, but there's no chink in the armour for Tom Walpole at the moment. He's still, not by much, hangs on to 4th place. So Lamborghini, Porsche, Lamborghini, KTM, Lamborghini, and it's a McLaren Artura of Michael Orant, who still continues to lead Group GTH at the moment, ahead of Hadley Simpson, who is 2nd in Group GTH and 7th. Doc Bush in his Porsche is 8th, Mark Ellman is 9th. Chris Murphy at the wheel of the BMW that I said had been going really well, I'm afraid is headed towards the pit lane, so that now means that it will be John Ingram in the Jolt Racing McLaren that will move up through the order. Here's Warren Gilbert. Is he going to sneak up the inside this time? No, he got again a very good run on Tom Walpole, but again, I think that little bit of discretion that he's going to be driving with this weekend, he desperately wants to claim not just the sprint championship, but the sporting championship could well go the way of Warren Gilbert and Fraser Fenwick. That is where you've got two drivers teamed up in the longer pit stop races. And as long as there's no pro involved in that driver pairing, then you can accumulate points in the sporting challenge in the pit stop races. Points you accumulate as, again, a amateur driver in the sprint races give you points towards the sprint challenge, and then of course you add up the totals from all, and then you get towards the overall championship. And then we've also got the teams championship, which Top Cats Racing are leading as well. So it could be a mega weekend for Top Cats Racing. They could potentially walk away from Snetterton having secured every championship. Jolt Racing, John Ingram scheduled to have started that car. So he does share the car with Rupert Williams, but I'm sure on the information that I received it was John that was starting the car. So he's just working his way out of Murray's. And was he going to be destined for the pits? Warren Gilbert again having another look every time he tries to sneak his way through and ahead of Tom Walpole. He gets to the corner and just realises that he's just not quite close enough, and that Tom is beautifully going to grab the apex every time. I'll just double check the data. It does say John Ingram on the information that we've been given for the starting driver for the Jolt Racing McLaren, so we'll stick with that one. Good little fight though still going on. Paul Bailey hasn't pulled that far ahead, has he, of the two cars behind him? So this is the fight for third, for fourth and for fifth. Group GTO Lamborghini lead Group GTC KTM Crossbow, and it does look as though Warren Gilbert has finally unpicked Tom Walpole, so that now moves him up into fourth place and puts him second in Group GTC. Tom drops to fifth and third in Group GTC, so now the next target for Warren Gilbert will be the Kendall Developments Lamborghini in the hands of Paul Bailey. Paul, the outgoing champion from 2023, huge amounts of GT racing experience, whether it be in Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Brabhams, Aston Martins, massive amounts of experience, the man from Rutland. And at the moment he's hanging on to the final podium spot, accelerating his way over the start-finish line in a straight line. The Group GTO Lamborghini should have the legs on the Group GTC car. Turn their way through Ritchie's corner with the first 10 minutes of the race having elapsed. And for Paul Bailey, doesn't need to worry about being under attack as he heads in towards the Wilson hairpin, because too far away is Warren Gilbert, who braked rather late there, I've got to say, and almost outbraked himself. So round through Palmer. And starting to build the speed again. I gather that the reason that Chris Murphy's car came into the pit lane that he shares with Kev Clark is that the differential pump has had some issues, so that's why that car headed in towards the pit lane. It's been a difficult day really for Chris and the Woodrow Motorsport team, because the other car they should have been racing had mechanical woes in one of the earlier sessions today. So 14 minutes to go, squabble for third still on. Paul Bailey in a straight line should have the legs on Warren Gilbert. Tom Walpole, having had a bit of a slithery moment coming out of Agostini at the wheel of the KTM, has just dropped that little bit further away. And all of the time, whilst Tom Rawlings, who leads the race by quite a substantive 18 seconds now, just keeps pulling away ever more. New fastest lap of the race from him on the lap he's just completed, and the one prior as well. So the fastest lap of the race is a 1:50.277 now, which means that Tom Rawlings is going to be probably 20 seconds up the road from this number 33 Porsche in the hands of Seamus Jennings, the GCAT Racing Porsche that he shares with Greg Caton come the pit stop race later on today. So through goes Seamus over the start-finish line, and the lead advantage is now heading towards 22 3/4 seconds between the race-leading number 2 Lamborghini, which heads out of Palmer as the second-place car only now really just turns its way in towards Ritchie's corner. So Tom Rawlings, clear track ahead of him, no traffic to worry about, huge amounts of clear track behind him, so he can just settle into the race and do exactly what he needs to do. I gather that the car that I thought was Chris Murphy was Kev Clark for the start of this race, and now I'm also hearing that the car that I thought was John Ingram may well have Rupert Williams behind it, and I think there might be an injector fault with that car. So here comes Warren Gilbert trying to attack Paul Bailey. Is he going to be able to squeeze his way up the inside? No, not quite. And now all of a sudden Tom Walpole buys into this little squabble and tries to go all the way around the outside of Agostini at the wheel of the KTM crossbow, but can't make it stick. So third, fourth and fifth all back together again. Tom Walpole, having lost a little bit of ground on the previous lap with that slithery moment coming out of Agostini, he's now right back in the Pirelli wheel tracks of Warren Gilbert and is trying to get himself back into second in Group GTC, back to fourth overall if he can. So onto the Bentley straight. We've hit the halfway point of this race as they head down the straight, build the speed. You can see there's nothing between the lap times of them really. Paul Bailey 155.8 last time through, Warren Gilbert a 155.4 and Tom Walpole a 155.9. But all three of them still locked together, turn their way out of Nelson up towards the bomb hole, which really does bring the cars in towards the apex, slightly backed as you go into it, and then you sort of crest it as you come out of that corner. Not by much, it's a fairly flat circuit by very nature of the fact it's an old airfield, Snetterton, but that is a slight incline. And Warren Gilbert sends one straight up the inside of Paul Bailey, way too late on the brakes. That leaps over the curb. Paul sees him coming. Warren gathers up the moment, will rejoin. Dusty Pirellis, but that drops him down behind Tom Walpole's KTM crossbow once more. Thankfully contact was avoided, but that was just, I'd say, a little bit too late on the brakes there, probably from Warren Gilbert. So Paul Bailey hangs on to third place, but now it's the KTM crossbow of Tom Walpole that is behind him, and that puts Tom back up to second overall in Group GTC. He gets right onto the coattails of the third place Lamborghini as they come out of the Wilson hairpin. He's not going to try anything as they come through the left-hander at Palmer. Can the slightly lighter and nimbler KTM do anything on the brakes going in towards Agostini? Now, I wouldn't have thought so, because again in the straight line, the Lamborghini should have a bit of a straight line speed advantage over the KTM. But through the twiddly infield section, the technical parts of this Snetterton 300, pendulum swings back in favour of the KTM again, I would say. So through Hamilton, up towards the braking area for Oggies. Tom doing a good job so far this weekend. Good job in qualifying, good job in the race so far. Good to see a bit more of the KTM crossbow, Tom Walpole and PMT Motorsport in GT Cup. They've certainly made a good impression so far. And hopefully, if they have a good day today, they might opt to join in the action tomorrow as well, because at the moment they're only scheduled to be entrants on Saturday, not tomorrow. So through Brundle, through Nelson, Paul Bailey still doing what Paul Bailey does, keeping his nose clean, driving within the confines of the circuit, making sure he hits the apexes and get cleanly off them, which does make it not an impossible task for Tom Walpole to pick his pocket, but it certainly doesn't make it easy. So round through Coram, this was where Warren Gilbert had a go at an overtake on the previous lap that didn't work. Tom Walpole is keeping his powder dry for the moment. Now, this time through, Seamus Jennings is showing as having picked up the lead of the race. Is that because there's an issue for the number 2 Lamborghini of Tom Rawlings? Yes, it has come into the pit lane for something and is on an out lap again. So the car that was leading, Tom Rawlings, back out on circuit, but is now down into 7th position. So Seamus Jennings picks up the lead of the race. Now, was it a puncture maybe for the race leader? You can see Tom Rawlings working his way through traffic. It's Adam Simpson's Ginetta that he's about to squeeze his way through and past. Now, he deals with that and gains the place. That will be 4th position as he's working his way back through the order. So Tom Rawlings, I gather from the information I'm hearing, it was a vibration, some sort of vibration. The team checked it over, there was nothing obvious, so they do wonder whether it might just been a little bit of pickup on the tyre, possibly, is the information I've just received. So that was what brought Tom into the pit lane. So yeah, he would have felt it, maybe thought it was a puncture, did the right thing, come into the pits, team check it out, and now it's just a little bit of pickup. And if you're not really quite sure what that is, of course, as the cars go round, little bits of rubber fly off the cars, and because those little bits of rubber are quite warm, when the next car goes over it, it picks it up. That's the pickup, and therefore if you end up with a bit too much pickup, you can end up with a vibration, and it feels as though something's not quite right in the car. So Tom doing absolutely the right thing for safety reasons, bringing it in. But what it now means is that this little 3-car train that we've got is for 2nd, 3rd and 4th place. Paul Bailey in 2nd place, Tom Walpole trying in third place. Warren Gilbert has managed to catch right back up with them again once more. Warren's trying around the outside at Murray. Surely that's not going to work. He almost runs out wide again and still has to sit behind Tom Walpole, but he gets a better exit, has more straight line speed and carves the Lamborghini alongside. He should just about be ahead by the time they get towards Ritchie's. Yep, through he goes. Warren Gilbert back up into third place. Tom Walpole back down into fourth place, and that also means he's back down in a position in Group GTC, so that is losing in reality the Group GTC lead as a result of that overtake, because it's a Group GT3 car that leads, that being Seamus Jennings in the Porsche. It's a Group GTO car, that being Paul Bailey in the black and Dayglow Lamborghini, and now it is the first of the Top Cats Racing with Hex.com Lamborghinis, the number 2 car that was leading the race earlier on down through the order, but the number 3 car, the sister car, takes up the lead of Group GTC. Now, Warren Gilbert last time was desperate to try and get past Paul Bailey's car. He is going to try and see if he can get the undercut this time coming out of Agostini. He's got the inside line when they get towards Hamilton. Is he going to be brave enough to stick it out? No, he doesn't. He tucks back behind once more, which drops him away from the second place Paul Bailey driven Lamborghini. It means that he's still got Tom Walpole not that far behind. Now in a straight line, has Paul Bailey got the advantage? If he can get on the throttle nice and early, he should be able to keep Warren Gilbert at bay. Warren's sitting in the slipstream, so he'll get the tow. The hole in the air that's being made by the car ahead. 6 minutes to go. Second, third and fourth still all together. Up to fifth place now is Michael Orant at the wheel of the Group GTH, leading McLaren Artura, that's prepared by Martin Plowman's team, Paddock Motorsport. Happy birthday to Martin from a couple of days ago. Had his birthday, what was it, Thursday I think this week, Martin Plowman. He will also be sharing that car with Michael come the pit stop race later on today. So through Coram in towards the braking area for Murray's. Warren Gilbert so confident on the brakes heading in towards Murray's. Gets right onto the coattails of Paul Bailey. But in a straight line, Paul Bailey just about has enough to keep his nose ahead. Warren Gilbert's closing in the slipstream. Jinks out from behind, but that's only to take a nice wide sweep in towards Ritchie's corner. And see what unfolds ahead of him to see whether he can prise the door open heading in towards the braking area for the Wilson hairpin. He's trying to prise the door open, he's trying to get himself alongside, but Paul Bailey covers that one off. So nose to tail through the Wilson hairpin. Paul Bailey still just ahead of Warren Gilbert. Warren almost overlapping on the way out of the corner. Gets off the throttle, and because he gets off the throttle, Tom Walpole gets a run at the wheel of the KTM Crossbow, but he can't squeeze his way through either. So great fight this is. And somebody's going to miss out on a podium here because there's only 2 podium slots available and 3 people are fighting for it. Remember, Seamus Jennings still leads at the wheel of the Porsche. Warren Gilbert trying to attack and defend at the same time. Tom Walpole again taking a nice wide sweep through Agostini. Warren Gilbert again trying to get the undercut coming out of Agostini to sneak up the inside at Hamilton, but as per the previous lap that didn't work. So he still remains there in third place at the moment. Again, a nice wide line going in towards Oggies to see whether he can get up the inside heading in towards Williams, and he's almost there but can't quite do it. Might delay him getting on the throttle a little bit, which will allow Paul Bailey to breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. It will also allow Tom Walpole in the KTM Crossbow to sit firmly in the slipstream. And if you look in the background of the shot, the sister car in the hands of Tom Rawlings, after its call into the pits, is now not that far away. So they're all slowing each other up, and this is actually playing beautifully into the hands of the next car, which is the car that had been leading the race in the hands of Tom Rawlings. So Seamus Jennings leads by 17 seconds. The GCAT Racing Porsche heads over the start-finish line now as they squabble for second, third, fourth, and will before too much longer surely fifth. Heads round through Coram and Murray's. With 3.5 minutes still remaining on the clock, they will be heading on to what I think may well be their penultimate lap of the race this time through. It really depends when Seamus Jennings came over the start-finish line. Was there enough for 2 laps left, or was there enough just for 3? So through Ritchie's corner for the 12th time. Tom Walpole almost running wide there. Warren Gilbert is too far back again on Paul Bailey to try anything, so brakes as late as he can. Again tries to triangulate the corner, but almost ran out wide again a little bit, which cost him time on the exit of the corner. So Paul Bailey still hanging on to second, Warren Gilbert third, Tom Walpole fourth, and then look in the background now, Tom Rawlings is absolutely with them. And this could be enormously important for Top Cats Racing to stitch up the team's championship this weekend, particularly in the absence of Forsetti Motorsport, who are second in the team's championship, and ABBA Motorsport, who are third in the team's championship, aren't present this weekend. So So can't see the team's championship going in any other direction really than Top Cats Racing. But they still need to keep their nose clean. And at the moment, Warren Gilbert is just about doing that. Again, he was almost undone there by Tom Walpole, who nearly got the KTM crossbow through. But now the attentions for Tom might turn from attack to defence, because he's now got Tom Rawlings, who gets a brilliant exit coming out of Williams and onto the Bentley straight, and surely he's going to put the second of those two Top Cats Racing Lamborghinis through and ahead of the KTM crossbow. Yeah, Tom goes through. And now for Warren, what's he going to do? Is he going to play the team game and let the car that's ahead in the championship go through? Or is he going to keep applying the pressure to Paul Bailey and just see what unfolds over the course of the next couple of minutes? So through they go. Over the start-finish line goes Seamus Jennings, and there's about 1 minute and 54 on the clock, and he did a 1 minute and 54 second lap there, so nip and tuck as to whether they are about to start their last lap of the race, as Warren Gilbert again tries to brake really late and tries to go all the way around the outside of Paul Bailey. Four wheels on the grass for the second time at that part of the circuit. Again, he loses positions, loses one of them to the sister car in the hands of Tom Rawlings, who is now up into third place and nearly lost out to Tom Walpole there. KTM Crossbow can't quite, though, capitalise on that. So Warren needs to clean up those dusty Pirelli tyres again and see whether he can just make sure that he hangs on to what is second in Group GTC. For Tom Rawlings, though, what he'll be wanting to do is work his way through and ahead of Paul Bailey's Group GTO leading Lamborghini, put himself up into second overall in the race. He leads Group GTC now that he's gone through and ahead of the sister car. What can Tom Rawlings do? Nice quick exit coming out of Palmer. He's not going to be able to outbrake Paul Bailey, I don't think, in towards Agostini. So a nice wide sweep into the corner. Apex later, try and get the undercut on the way out. Paul Bailey tries to park his car on the apex of the corner and make it difficult. Tom Rawlings can't quite muster his way through, or can he? Yes, he can. Through he goes at the inside of Hamilton. And that now puts Tom Rawlings up into second place overall in the race. Sister car of Warren Gilbert sitting behind Paul Bailey. Paul Bailey drops to third. Warren Gilbert fourth. Tom Walpole in fifth place. The top three cars in GTC all together very much, aren't they? Other than the interloping GTO car of Paul Bailey, that black car with its day-glow flashes. So with 15 seconds remaining on the clock, are we going to get Seamus Jennings over the start-finish line for a further lap, or is the checkered flag just going to come out? It's going to be really, really tight, you know. So he heads towards the start-finish line and comes over the start-finish line. Checkered flag will come out. The clock has just ticked to 0. Seamus Jennings claims the win in the first of our sprint races in the GT Cup Championship. Is Paul Bailey going to hang on to second place, or has Tom Rawlings got anything else that he can throw? Sorry, has Warren Gilbert got anything else he can throw at it as he tries to take third place away from Paul Bailey? Again, he tries around the outside. Again, he's four wheels on the grass. Tom Walpole takes the advantage and squeezes his way through. So Seamus Jennings claims the win. Tom Rawlings in second place. It is going to be Paul Bailey that finishes in third place. Tom Walpole comes through in fourth. Warren Gilbert had an interesting race there, finishes in fifth position, but as far as he's concerned, that's still a good points haul towards the Sprint Challenge Championship for this year. Michael Arant finishes in fifth place, and that'll be a Group GTH win for Michael Arant. And then we wait the arrival of the next of the cars through and over the start-finish line, which is going to be the number 37 Ginetta of Hadley Simpson, the Innovation Racing with Hallam Express car. It's come through and finish in 7th place. The other Porsche we've got in the field, Doc Bush, should be through and finishing in 8th place. Here he comes now, Doc Bush, the former motorcycle racer, as he heads over the start-finish line. And then Mark Ellman should be the next of the cars to come through. Just see his Ginetta, the SVG Motorsport Ginetta. Andy Johnson's team, who always prepare a good car, about to flash his way over the start-finish line and take the checkered flag. Problems for the number 72 BMW of Chris Murphy and Kev Clark, and problems also for John Ingram and Rupert Williams in the Jolt Racing McLaren. So neither of those cars, unfortunately, seeing the checkered flag at the end of our first of two races that we've got here for you today at Snetterton. So we should be able to confirm the results for you then. It's a win for the number 33 Porsche, driven by Seamus Jennings, and in second place, it's the number 2 Lamborghini of Tom Rawlings. Third place goes the way of Paul Bailey, who scooped up the winning Group GTO, and fourth place, great debut for the KTM Crossbow of Tom Walpole, who finishes in fourth. Warren Gilbert in fifth place, but that's still good points towards the teams and the Sprint Championship, and Michael Arant claims Group GTH, finishing in 6th place. Hadley Simpson was 7th, with Doc Bush in 8th place, and Mark Ellman was in 9th position. Problems for the number 72 BMW brought Chris Murphy and Kev Clark car in towards the pit lane and retirement. And they weren't the only retirement, unfortunately, because we also saw retirement for the Jolt Racing McLaren of John Ingram and Rupert Williams, who also did not see the checkered flag. So that's the first of our sprint races done and dusted. It certainly looks as though Top Cats Racing have got a stranglehold on most of the championships, but we've got some maths to do in advance of round 24 of the championship, the pit stop race, and that is due to take place here at Snetterton around about 3:10 this afternoon. So thanks for joining us for the sprint race, race 1. We'll be back with you later on this afternoon for our pit stop race. So until then, goodbye.